Hey, Facebook, YouTube. Just wanted to give you a quick snapshot into what I see from my lens. And I think in my last video I talked about, what goes on within the ministry and how sometimes it's overwhelming, and I don't think people really recognize, and I'm sure I'm not the only person out here that's working, trying to actually bring opportunity and relief and just some peace into people's lives. And this was way before this pandemic. Many of us out in the streets, grassroots organizations, and really trying to just pay attention to people and their lives and how life affects their lives. I mean, how the circumstances of life affect people's lives. And I just want to say, I started my vacation last Friday, and it was my plan to go to Chicago to see some of the people that, I really don't want to ever miss, saying I love you too. And, talk to people that are a part of my life that I don't get to see or talk to on a regular basis. And I waited until now because, with the pandemic and all that, I didn't want to go on vacation and then be almost in prison, just locked up and nothing to do. So I waited until now, and I was really excited. But then this George Floyd thing happened. It kind of changed the dynamics about things. Everybody was protesting, and everybody was on edge to a degree. There was this edginess. So I still went to Chicago, booked my room and stuff, and get out to Chicago, go and check in my room, and talk to a couple friends on the phone and tell them, hey man, I'm here, let's get together and this and that. Everything's exciting, So the first person I run into is one of the guys that basically, he's an older guy, sort of mentor, street. He's well known in the streets to a generation, but that generation is actually getting older and passing away, because when it comes down to the streets, there's a saying, used to be is like never was. So, we are all going into that never was type scenario as we get older. And this guy, Dad, they call him Dad in the streets, but his name is Edward Reed. And I ran into him, and I had been trying to catch up with him for a long time, because he's one of those that's challenged with this technology, with these phones. And he broke his phone anyway. But I ran into him, and I was really excited to see him. He was excited to see me, because a lot of people at one point thought he was my father. And I was really, and he calls me his son too, and it was really an exciting time to get back with him and just sit back and talk and this and that. And this, in the midst of me talking to him, within 30 minutes, the climate changed. It's almost like going from sunshine to a hurricane. I'm standing on Madison Street, and I guess I would have to say about 400 to 500 people passed me. And it was the beginning of the riot. And, I wasn't shook by it, because I actually, in '68, when King was murdered, I went up to Madison Street then as a young kid, and I was in the midst of the riot, so, and then there's been a lot of chaos in my life anyway, but it's been a lot of good too, but so don't get that misconstrued. Yeah, I've had a lot of good. But it was great, talking to him, and then instantaneously, it was like, a swarm. And people are tearing up things and, angry and I guess, exacting, sort of getting even type scenario, and things are being torn up. And this is all over the city. I mean, this is all over the city. And it was a calculated and coordinated riot. I've never seen anything like it. The one in 68 was just 100% anger. But they, like I said in my last video, this one had 3 different layers. You had people that was there to protest, you had people that was there to take advantage, and then you had those that was just angry. So it was a different type of scenario, and it kind of caught me off guard. Now, I wasn't shook, but it caused me to step back and say, wow, So I left there, and I got a chance to sit with my brother, Stan, for... Actually, it was an inordinate amount of time. We sat down and we talked longer than I think we've ever talked, and just, kicked it. And it was really enjoyable, really a enjoyable moment. And in the midst of all that, I told him, I said, well, I'm going back out to my hotel because they instituted a curfew. So I went out to my hotel, slept that night, and the next morning I got up. I wanted to go and see. I got a Down syndrome brother, and then I got one that's paranoid schizophrenic. And this here part speaks volumes to when people think that because I smile all the time, people think that things are just peaches and cream, and they really not. It's just that God has given me the ability to smile through even my pain. But that morning I got up, and I'm in the streets, and I'm driving around, and man, I'm telling you, it's a sad sight. It's a sad sight. I'm looking at 1968 all over again, because Madison Street and that area that I was in was a flourishing a shopping center at one point. I mean, when I was a kid, we never went downtown for anything because we had everything right down our neighborhood. And it was burned down and torn down. And Madison Street never recovered from that. And now they had, they got all these tops and bottoms and all these cheap 99-cent stores and a bunch of jump shoe stores. And, because back in the day, when Stacey Adams was something, the Stetson shoes, and, you had Borsalino hats, and all that stuff was on Madison Street. Everything that was high line was actually on Madison Street at one time. But now, what they filled it back in with was a bunch of secondary cheap stuff, that only appeals to a certain crowd. But anyhow, I see this, and I said, well, let me go and see Fred. Fred is my Down syndrome brother. And I he's in a group home too. Since my mom passed, we had to send him to a group home because really none of us are really equipped to deal with his day-to-day our needs. So, and I love Fred. Fred is one of the most pure spirits I've ever encountered. I mean, and most Down syndrome kids are. I'm gonna tell you, that's something. If you want to see love, look at one of them. Unconditional love. I mean, just pure love. If you want to see pure love, kind of mingle with a Down syndrome person, because they love, man. They love. And I mean, this dude calls me sometimes. I get frustrated with him, but sometimes he calls me 3 times a day. And he called me and say, "Hey, what you eating?" And I'm like, I'm right in the middle of something. It might be important. But I answer my phone anyway because it's him. And I'm frustrated a lot of times with him. But I have to put up with it because this is what makes him happy, right? So I go to the place that he's in, a group home that he's in. And man, it's like a shot in the heart because the lady said, well, you can't come in and he can't come out. And I said, well, I want to give him something. And she said, well, you can give it to me. I said, well, can he at least come to the door and stand behind you so I can tell him, yeah, huh? And she said, yeah, I guess we can do that. And the look on his face was, man, it was just disheartening. Because even though they probably tried to explain the pandemic to him and all this social distancing and all this other nonsense, uh, he don't understand it. He don't understand it, and and if he does, he's like, okay, I understand it, but why can't I say hi to my brothers? You know? And he's got this distraught look on his face when I tell him I can't come in, and man, I drive away from that, and I'm like, you know, it's painful. So I got another brother, Kenneth. I said I'm going to see him because they both on the north side of Chicago. I want to go and see him, and they informed me of the same thing. But this time I can't even, you know, I can't even put an eye on him. He can't put an eye on me. They can't come into those areas. So I'm like, man, you know, and you know, I try to make sure I see Kenneth every time I go, because the paranoia schizophrenic thing, that is disturbing in itself, because, you know, here's a guy who still struggles with the fact that he don't even know on some days that our mother passed, you know, and you know, you want to keep going in front of him so he will remember that he has a family that loves him. And now, you know, you really can't, there's nothing you can do. I mean, I called him, but, you know, there's a big difference between calling him and being able to go and get him and take him out to lunch and all that stuff. But anyhow, I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and see my buddy Ike Taylor. Well, I mean, I'm batting 1,000 at this point, but I guess there's a batting average higher than 1,000, because when I get to Ike, he's sick, and he's not feeling well, and he's struggling to try to make me believe that he's feeling better than he is, and you know, because he's happy to see me, I'm happy to see him, you know, because we go way back, and you know, I love him, and I know he loves me, and to see him, you know, trying to push through the pain and everything else that he's going through to try to make me feel comfortable. It was just sad. Then the drive back from his house, I'm driving through and I'm seeing seniors come to go grocery shopping at stores that were in their community the night before. And, you know, they cashed their Social Security checks, and, you know, now they want to go shopping, and they can't go shopping because the store that was there yesterday is not here today. And you start to think about who's being affected by this and how is it affecting people. And one of the things that really hit me hard was that I found out that, you know, the schools stopped the lunch program, because even though the schools were not in session, they were still giving the neighborhood kids a free lunch, right? And you know, many of you know that sometimes that's the only meal that those kids will get. And now, you know, the kids not getting their lunch. That's disturbing to me. Man. And to watch those seniors, you know, and a lot of you know me, you know that seniors have a special place in my heart, and it bothered me that they couldn't get what they needed. And you feel so helpless because you want to do something. But I mean, even up beyond that, I get a text in the midst of all this, and I'm telling you, I'm really feeling crazy already. And I get a text through Messenger. It's about a young lady, a girl that actually, I've been knowing her for quite a while, a young girl. I saw her 2 weeks ago at a birthday party in the park. One of our family members had a birthday party, and I came because I'm pretty close to their family. Came and I hugged her and I kissed her on the top of the head, and she had a boyfriend with her, and he was creepy. But anyhow, I get a text, and it's her auntie, and her auntie texts me and said, well, you know, look at this picture, and share this picture on your Facebook. And I'm like, okay, what happened? Because this looks like Mariah's, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said her name, but it looks like her boyfriend. And she said, it is. I'm like, okay, well, what is he in trouble for? Come to find out, this guy stabbed this girl in the face, stabbed her in the chest and in the side. And that was like the last straw. I couldn't finish my vacation. I ended up leaving and coming back to Indy. And I was hoping that Indy, I was making calls all the way into Indy, about, since I said her name, I'll keep it out there, Mariah. And I was trying to make sure that, our seniors, the ones that we serve, would be able to get what they needed, or trying to mobilize a crew together, that if the stores were torn up in the neighborhoods, that we could kind of get some people together that would man up and, try to help these seniors. But Mariah's situation has really, really rocked me, because I watched this girl grow up to a woman. And I'm kind of at a loss for words when it comes down to that, because that's kind of becoming a norm. And it's disturbing that guys are out here and they're so weak that when a girl tells them, hey, you know what, we can't go no further than here, they tend to want to kill her or whatever, because this was an attempted murder. Actually, he's been sought by the police for an attempted murder. I'm hoping other guys seeking him to just hold court, before the police get there. Because that's a really, really soft act to fight a female. I just never saw the power in that. There's no power in beating up a girl. What kind of dude is you? But to go and stab her, in the face, in the chest, punch her lung, stab her in the side, you wanted to kill her. And man, I'm still struggling with that. But in the midst of it, I got some joy, because I don't know, some of you probably seen Mr. Parnell on my Facebook page. He's a white guy, older white guy. He's 95 years old, and we kind of cut his grass, and me and him have been friends for a long time. I mean, one of the best people I know. And his daughter wrote the most beautiful poem. I will be posting it shortly to my Facebook page about the George Floyd death. And to hear a white woman speak these words is so beautiful. She almost brought me to tears with some of the stuff that she wrote in there. And I asked her, I said, hey, Darlene, what made you write this? She said, well, I was sitting down in my study, and she said, God spoke to my heart and said, I have something for you to put out there. And she said, so I had to write it down. I'm asking that you guys review it, read it, internalize it, and share it. Make this go viral. Make this go viral. When I put this out here, make it go viral. Because these are some of the most beautiful words. And it sums up the situation. And it shows the support. It shows that, you know what, even racism is a dark thing. Racism is a really, really dark thing. But it shows that even our white brothers and sisters hate racism. I believe God do too. See you next time.